Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Nasty Menace, out September 25th on Century Media Records. The album has 14 tracks, 29 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album, first album that they're releasing with Century Media Records. This album is brutal. It grabs you, it drags you face down on the concrete. When it's finished, it picks you up, uses a cheese grater just to make sure that no spots were missed. That's the kind of record you're dealing with. This is a hardcore album through and through, musically and vocally. From a structural perspective, I love the record. Very fluid, very dynamic. There's no pauses, there's no breaks. The album almost seems as one solid track. It keeps on moving. They did a wonderful job creating interludes or bridge tracks that really bind this album together, that give the record a sense of continuity. And even the songs that have a different soundscape or a different sound approach, the way they merge the elements of the tracks or the way they combine those elements is so interesting, it's so fluid, it's so dynamic that you don't really notice that much of a difference or that much of a break in between tracks, even if the music that surrounds those tracks is very different from song to song. So wonderful job connecting the album, keeping it very fluid, very dynamic, really engaging the listener from the first song all the way to the last. The only thing I would change as far as the overall structure of the record is concerned has to do with the last song on the album and the first song on the album. The last track on the album is Ballad of Bullets. This is an instrumental track, and it has some atmospheric and musical elements that you're going to see again at the opening track of the record, which is Ultimate. I would have loved those two tracks to be almost seamless, to be one, where one finishes, the other one starts immediately. Right now there's about 4 to 5 second break in between them, and that takes a little bit away from that experience of listening to the album on loop and not really knowing where the album ends and where it starts. It's just continuously playing. Right now there is enough of a gap for you to know that the record is ended, and I would like that to be taken away in order for the album to be even more fluid. Right now it's a 10, I wanted it to be an 11, so this is a small thing that doesn't take too much away from the overall experience of listening to this record, but if you remove it, you can definitely add a different element to how this album comes across. Musically, this album is heavy, it's driven, it's powerful, it's aggressive, but it's also melodic, it's also groovy. There's a lot of different elements at play. This is not just a heavy record from top to bottom. There's still a lot of melody, there's still a lot of grooviness being infused into the tracks. It's just that the heaviness is such that sometimes it overpowers all the other elements. But if you look under the hood, you're going to find them there. This album is super groovy, it's super melodic, it just has so much heaviness surrounding it that becomes the main beacon, that becomes the main focus of attention for the listener. You're so concentrated on how heavy it is that you almost forget or you almost don't pay attention to the more melodic portions that this album has to offer. Vocally, I love how diverse it is. If you have an album that is this dynamic, this fluid musically, and also very diverse in the approach that they took on every single song, you want the vocals to match that same experience. You don't want one size fits all from the first track to the last track. You want the vocals to go where the record is going, where the tracks are going. You want the songs to come to life. You want the lyrics to come to life. And the only way to do it is by having a more dynamic vocal approach, which is exactly what we got on this album. The clean vocals are really interesting, the harsh vocals, the screaming vocals, there's a little bit of everything on this album vocally, but it just keeps you on your toes, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you coming back for more, and it gives life to the songs. Musically, that life is already there, but vocally it just explodes it. It allows the tracks to come to life, it allows the lyrics to really jump into the forefront and become a main focus, a main part of how the songs are constructed. Overall, I really enjoyed this record. This is a really solid hardcore album. It's powerful, it's heavy, it has short tracks, great interludes, really well connected, very fluid, very dynamic. It goes full circle. There's this sense of never ending. Where it ends, it starts. It's just really well crafted, really well executed, and I really enjoyed it. A lot more than what I thought going in. I was expecting to be more one-dimensional, and it wasn't. It was a lot more than just that. It had a lot more faces. It had a lot more to offer to the listener as you digest every single song on it. As far as favorite tracks are concerned, I want to start off with Menace. Slow and heavy musically. Vocals add even more heaviness to the way the track sounds. There's a little bit of more grooviness into the chorus. The vocal approaches changes as well in the chorus. There's definitely a clear change, a different approach altogether from the verses into the chorus. But the verses drag more musically, and the vocals try to push that sound forward. At the midway point of the song, it gets even heavier, more destructive. I didn't think it was possible because the song, while not fast tempo, it does have it's a thick volume song. It has a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I didn't think they could make the song any heavier because it was already very heavy as it was moving along. But at the midway point, they really turned the knob to 11. The song becomes a lot more powerful, a lot heavier, a lot more destructive, and then it closes with a serious beatdown of heaviness from the guitars. I love it. Just a perfect way of closing off a track that just peaked with all of this intensity and all of this aggression. Next, Betrayer, one of my favorite tracks on the album, hands down, if not, I would say my favorite track. It's hard to pick because there's a lot of songs on this record that I really gravitated towards, but this is definitely up there, top 2 songs for this album as far as I'm concerned. I love how this song sounds. It comes at you almost as jolts of heaviness and energy. It just comes and goes, it comes and goes. The chorus is super hooky. That plays a huge factor for me and really allowing me to gravitate towards the song. It's catchy, it's simple, the way the vocals come across, the melody that the guitars have, all of these elements really allow it to be super hooky, super interesting. The clean vocals add to that hookiness. I actually felt that the clean vocals and how they were used in the chorus was definitely one of the main elements that allowed the chorus to be even more noticeable versus using just heavy or really brutal vocals that would take a little bit away from the simplicity of the lyrics in the chorus. The verses pound you down. The verses pound you into submission, but then the chorus lifts you up. That is the dynamic that you have here in this song. It's the roller coaster ride. It's the ups and downs through the beginning all the way to the end. Absolutely dynamic and explosive track. Last but not least, Inhale, Exhale. This is also in my top favorite tracks of the records. Between Betrayer and this one, I honestly don't know which one comes first or second. I love them both. Now, this song has a very groovy guitar riff. I love it. It brings a lot of grooviness to the forefront. It's not necessarily a super heavy track. It's a lot more groovy than it is heavy. But this is a song that is a hardcore anthem. The way it's built, the way it's constructed, the way it sounds, the way they use the vocals on this track. They use the vocals as a choir. So there's layers to the vocals. So that doesn't create heaviness as far as the track is concerned, but it definitely creates presence, it creates volume, it makes the song bigger, and that is what gives this track that feel of a live, hardcore anthem, and I love it. Very hooky, very catchy, it has that earworm capability, but the way the vocals are used, those layers, really jumps to the forefront. It makes this song noticeable, and then it's a song that has just a lot of energy built into it. Like I said, a hardcore anthem through and through, just killer track from top all the way to the bottom. I love how this song sounds. I love how it feels, and a song that has to be played live because it has all of those elements that you need for a great live track to really work and bring the most out of the crowd that's listening to you. This is it. This is Nasty with Menace, out September 25th on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.